When you think of skyrocketing brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, it's easy to credit their success to great products, sleek branding, and brilliant marketing. But here's the overlooked secret. The real magic lies in the engine behind the scenes, the business powering their business. For millions of brands, that engine is Shopify, making selling seamless for them and shopping effortless for us. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Aloe Yoga uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/retail, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/retail to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/retail.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. They're the home of the #1 checkout on the planet and the not-so-secret Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales happening. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds and Skims use. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/start selling. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/start selling to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/start selling.
Hello, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Toby.
And welcome to the Whispering Woods Extra. This episode is all about
HALEN poltergeist.
Yeah, so we've got another poltergeist in pretty much the same region, carrying on from the main episode. I'll get straight into it. Are you ready for the story?
Yes, I am.
It's the 1930s in rural Belgium. HALEN is a small Flemish town, all cobblestone streets and candlelit windows. Life moved slowly here, until, for one family, it suddenly didn't. The story unfolds on a cold evening. A farmer's wife finishes tidying the kitchen, her breath hanging in the frigid air. Beyond the farmhouse walls, the wind howls across barren fields. Inside, silence. Then a knock. 3 sharp raps echo from the walls, as if on their own, startling her. She clutches her shawl tightly. No one is at the front door. No one is outside. And still the knocks come again, deliberate and loud. Thus began the strange case of the HALEN poltergeist. Within days, the farmhouse on the outskirts of HALEN became a stage for escalating chaos. It started small. Keys went missing, then turned up across the room. Chairs found pulled out from the table in the morning when no one had been up at night. The family's teenage daughter, let's call her Clara, complained of waking to her bed shaking ever so slightly. Each incident alone could be dismissed as misplacement or a gust of drafty winter wind. But soon the events grew too blatant to ignore. One cold dawn, the family discovered shards of broken plates and glasses strewn across the kitchen floor. Cabinet doors hung open. It was as if, in the dead of night, an invisible whirlwind had swept through. The father initially scolded his children. thinking it a prank or rough play. They protested in tears that they had nothing to do with it. As he comforted them, a sudden crash sounded in the parlour. All rushed in and found a porcelain figurine shattered on the floor. No one else in the room. It had seemingly leapt from the mantelpiece on its own. These kinds of object movements and spontaneous breakages are classic hallmarks of poltergeist phenomena, and HALEN's farmhouse was quickly becoming a textbook case of a noisy spirit at work. At night, the disturbances intensified. According to written accounts from that time, heavy footsteps were heard tramping through empty rooms. The family would lie awake, white-knuckled, as bangs reverberated through the halls. Sometimes it was a rapid series of knocks, as if something unseen rapped its knuckles along the wooden walls and headboards in sequence. Other times, it was a single violent slam, a door closing itself with terrific force. The phenomena seemed to defy logic or gravity. Neighbours began to stay over to witness it for themselves. One later described watching a coal scuttle slide across the hearth by an invisible hand, spilling ashes in a trail across the floor. Another night, a stack of firewood reportedly tumbled over for no reason, each log rolling in an eerily deliberate way. Every person present was accounted for. Nobody near the objects when they moved. Fear took hold of the household. By lamplight, they would pray and clutch rosaries, flinching at each thump in the dark. Word of these uncanny occurrences spread quickly through HALEN. It wasn't long before local newspapers caught wind of the haunted house on the hill. The press in 1934, much like today, had a flair for the dramatic. One Belgian paper dubbed the unseen assailant "De Spook van HALEN," the ghost of HALEN. Even outside Belgium, journalists were fascinated by poltergeist cases in that era. In fact, across the Channel in the same decade, London papers breathlessly covered a similar outbreak of flying crockery in a suburban home. Reporters compared notes and headlines, as one famously wrote of such phenomena. Some malevolent ghostly force is working miracles. Poltergeist. That's what the scientists call it. In HALEN, residents called it the spook. Skeptics and believers started trekking to the farmhouse, hoping either to debunk the claims or witness a real haunting. They were rarely disappointed. Eyewitness accounts from those who visited the troubled home are chilling in their consistency. Visitors spoke of small objects levitating or being flung by an unseen force. Pebbles, cutlery, even a heavy wooden crucifix that flew off the wall as they swatted in anger. On one occasion, an iron stove lid reportedly rose straight up off the stove, clanging down, then rose again, clattering repeatedly as the family watched in terrified awe. A milk jug shattered in mid-air, shards flying as if an invisible fist had smashed it. And then there were the voices, faint, muttering voices that seemed to come from empty corners of the house. Clara swore she heard whispering from the attic. Their research found no source. These manifestations covered virtually the full range of poltergeist phenomena: violent noises, objects thrown or moved, and even disembodied voices. Neighbours started avoiding the place after dusk. HALEN's parish priest was asked to bless the home. He obliged, walking room to room sprinkling holy water, only for a window to slam shut on its own behind him, as if in defiance. not everyone was convinced anything supernatural was afoot, at least not at first. A few townsfolk suggested perhaps the family's children were playing tricks, or that the farm's old timbers and pipes were responsible for the noises. But as the incidents piled up, so did credible witnesses. The events were documented not just by scared family members, but by level-headed outsiders, a schoolteacher, a postman, a pair of merchants from a neighbouring village, all who came to see the haunted farmhouse and left pale and shaken by what they experienced. One visitor described a table that vibrated and skidded along the floor in broad daylight. No hidden wires, no magnets, just a plain wooden table moving as though yanked by a ghost. Another swore that bellows used for the fireplace began to pump by themselves, wheezing out puffs of air. These are exactly the type of physical effects of a poltergeist that cyclical researchers of the time took note of, devoid of cause or logic, as one investigator put it. By now the HALEN case had graduated from local curiosity to a full-fledged mystery, drawing national attention. As pressure mounted to find a rational explanation, or indeed any explanation, the local authorities finally stepped in. It was becoming a matter of public order. Crowds were gathering on some nights, drawn by rumour to the road outside the farm, and the family inside was near a breaking point. Thus, on a moonlit night, 2 gendarmes, Belgian police officers, were dispatched to the farmhouse. They arrived with lanterns and scepticism in equal measure. One can imagine their breath hanging in the frosty air as they approached the house, expecting to uncover a hoax. They would not be the first officers to investigate a poltergeist claim. Such cases were rare, but not unheard of, and police in other places had sometimes witnessed unexplainable events themselves. Still, these men of law came armed with common sense, ready to put superstitions to rest. Inside, they found a family huddled in the parlour, desperate for help. The officers methodically searched each room, cellar to attic, turning up nothing unusual. No pranksters hiding under beds, no mechanisms or trick devices. They advised the family to remain calm. Perhaps, they suggested, the noises were just rats in the walls or vibrations from the wind. But as the evening deepened, the house decided to show the policeman what it could do. According to the reports that survive, the first sign was a pair of heavy oak chairs that wobbled, then scraped across the floor of their own accord right before the officers' eyes. Both gendarmes rushed to grab the chairs, trying to stop the movement. One officer even blurted out that it felt as if someone invisible was pulling against him. Moments later, a loud rap sounded on the wall, just beside the second officer's head. Bang, 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 causing him to jump back in alarm. He later admitted that at that moment, a chill ran down his spine, unlike any he'd felt in his 20 years on the force. Over the next 2 nights, the police stayed on site in shifts, determined to witness and document the phenomena. And witness they did. To their astonishment, and later to their candid credit, inanimate objects moved in their presence with no logical cause. A coffee tin flew off a shelf in the pantry, narrowly missing one officer's face. A door slammed, though no breeze was blowing. At one point, the sound of what they described as distant whispering was heard coming from an empty room, followed by a sudden thud as a bedstead in that room seemed to jolt against the wall. The usually stoic policemen were, by the end of 48 hours, both spooked and mystified. They filed an official report noting bizarre disturbances witnessed by officers, affirming that no human trickery could be found. This official acknowledgement lent the case a new credibility, when even the police trained to find mundane explanations confessed themselves baffled. The HALEN poltergeist graduated from village rumour to certified phenomena, in an era long before viral videos. This was as solid as evidence got. Multiple lawmen and upstanding citizens all attesting to unexplainable events. The gendarme's testimony matched what the family and others had been saying all along. As one newspaper wryly noted, the spirit has eluded arrest. The authorities could neither explain nor stop the occurrences, and for a time they stationed a constable near the property to keep onlookers at a safe distance and to reassure the terrified family within. Testing. The haunting reportedly reached a peak one terrifying night about a month into the ordeal. By now, whispers of demons and curses circulated in HALEN's cafes. Some locals suggested the family call in a priest for an exorcism. Others, steeped in old folklore, muttered about a restless ancestor spirit or even witchcraft. But no theory stuck for long. The phenomena had no clear rhyme or reason, striking at random. As one cyclical researcher later wrote, poltergeist manifestations often seem purely gratuitous and devoid of logic, an unseen force playing pranks, as if for its own inscrutable amusement or anger. On this fateful night, a half-dozen family friends and neighbours gathered in the flickering lamplight of the main room, determined to support the family through the onslaught. The air felt heavy, charged with anticipation and dread. Near midnight, as a few visitors started nodding off from the late hour, a sudden metallic clatter rang out. In the kitchen, the iron skillet had flung itself off the stove onto the floor. Everyone snapped awake, eyes wide. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Then came a rapid tat-tat-tat of knocks from inside the walls, travelling around the room. Oil lamps dimmed and sputtered as if a breeze had passed, but the air was deathly still. Clara, the teen daughter, suddenly doubled over, crying out that something invisible had yanked her hair. Pandemonium. The witnesses later struggled to describe the next few minutes. A whirlwind of objects toppling and people shouting. One man swore he saw a dark shape out of the corner of his eye, darting in the hallway, though when he looked straight at it, nothing was there. A woman felt a sharp tap on her shoulder, though no one stood near. It was as if, in that moment, the entity in the house was everywhere. In the chaos, the family's old Bible was knocked from a shelf, landing with a thud on the floor, splayed open. The patriarch of the house picked it up and, voice shaking, began to write a psalm aloud. As the prayer echoed, a heavy quiet fell. One by one the disturbances stopped. No more knocks, no more flying objects. Just the ragged breathing of frightened souls in a cold, dark house. The long night finally gave way to an ashen dawn. Everyone was exhausted, but unharmed. Remarkably, and true to many poltergeist cases, despite all the flying furniture and debris, no one had been seriously injured through the entire ordeal. Bruises, scrapes, shock, yes, but the malicious force, if that's what it was, seemed content to scare, not to kill. And then, just as abruptly as it began, the haunting at HALEN stopped. In the weeks following that climatic night, the manifestations grew less frequent and less violent. The knocks became occasional pings, the thrown object slowed, to a book sliding off a shelf here or a single picture frame found on the floor there. Within a month or two, the farmhouse was quiet once more. The poltergeist had gone dormant, or moved on, leaving the family in peace, albeit a peace forever shadowed by this experience. The family never could identify a cause or reason for what happened. They had lived in that house for years without issue. No one had dabbled in spiritualism or anything that might invite such an entity, contrary to some sensational rumours. It just happened. Researchers from as far as France and the UK corresponded with local Belgian investigators, eager to analyse the case. In an era fascinated by both spiritualism and emerging psychoanalytic theory, two camps of explanation emerged. The spiritualists were convinced a restless spirit or ghost had been at work, an external entity, perhaps tied to the land or the family's ancestry. They pointed to the seemingly intelligent nature of the phenomena, how the knocks would respond at times to spoken questions. Yes, reportedly there were attempts to communicate. One visitor asked aloud, "Is someone here?" Not once for yes, twice for no. And there was indeed a single knock in reply. Skeptics and scientists, however, leaned toward more psychological or natural explanations. One theory posited that Clara, the adolescent girl, might have been unwittingly causing the disturbances through psychokinesis, mind over matter, triggered by repressed stress or emotions. This idea had gained traction in the 1930s. As some researchers suggested, poltergeists were not spirits at all, but manifestations of human psychic energy. Indeed, cyclical researcher Nandor Foda in London was at the very time investigating a similar case, the Alma Fielding haunting, and concluding the mind could externalise trauma to produce real-world effects. Could something like that have been the cause in HALEN? Clara was a sensitive, imaginative girl by all accounts. Was she subconsciously the epicentre of the chaos? It was impossible to prove, and importantly, no evidence of fraud by her or anyone else was ever found. The family gained nothing from the ordeal except misery and a fleeting notoriety they never sought. Contemporary investigators combed through the possibility of tricks, but came up empty-handed. As one report noted, no supercherie aviri, proven hoax, could be uncovered. In the end, the HALEN poltergeist case remains unsolved. Some cases of alleged poltergeists do eventually yield to ordinary explanations. Natural causes, pranks, even rodents. But others like HALEN's remain unexplained. Decades later, paranormal scholars would look back on the 1930s as something of a golden era of well-documented hauntings, from Borley Rectory in England to the ghost of HALEN in Belgium, and note how seriously even mainstream society took these reports. After all, even police witnesses swore to what they saw in this case.
You'll notice in most poltergeist cases, the activity just kind of burns itself out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
After a while, it's like it's used up that burst of energy, and then it's like, yeah, right, I'm done now. Next,
It just wants to spook people.
yeah, depletes all the energy,
It just wants to have a bit of fun.
and then it's like, yeah, that's it, I'm done. Till next time.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of this episode. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
We will indeed. We will catch you again on Sunday. Take care, everyone.
Goodbye.